Welcome. Welcome to episode 1 of The Art of Shame-Free Living. I am really excited about this podcast. This feels like a culmination of years of study and work and mostly intentional practice with myself, also with my clients, but a lot of work on myself to get to this point. And I want to share all of the insights that I have about shame. I see shame everywhere. I see shame as the root of so much around us, the root of communication problems, at the root of anxiety, at the root of so many things in life that keep us stuck. And I want to talk about those and expound on those. There's a caveat here that I am okay with being wrong. I have realized over the years that I change my mind. I'm open to learning more insights. I'm open to more research, more study. And so at any point I might be like, you know what? I don't agree with myself last year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago. And this is what I think now. So I will share that as well. So this very first episode, I'm going to talk about shame. I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey with shame. And in the part 2 of this episode on shame, I'm going to talk a lot about what shame actually means. You can expect from these episodes, they're going to be short and bite-sized and punchy. I'm not going to have any guests. It's just going to be me riffing on whatever shame-based thing is happening that week, what's happening in my life, what's happening in my journal or in my own processes, or what's happening in my world where I see shame popping up. So first of all, I want to mention that something that I truly believe in is resonance. Resonance being when something resonates with me, when I feel it on my insides and it feels like truth to me, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for resonance. So as you're listening, instead of trying to use your mind to like figure it out, like scientifically and logically and like all of the things that we usually do when we try to figure something out, so we try to figure something out up here in our mind space. I want you to listen with your heart space and listen to what feels like it resonates. I had a mentor one time tell me when I felt like she said something really mind-blowing. I don't even know what it was anymore, but I remember she said something and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that because that just hit me so hard. And she said, when something resonates, it resonates with you because I'm just reminding you of a truth that was already inside of you. And I loved that idea that there is truth, there is wisdom within me, and it gets like kind of pulled out by things that other people say or things that I read. And so I want you to be looking for those little hits and leave behind what you don't agree with, leave behind what you disagree with maybe, or maybe you want to mull it over or think about it, but also be tapping into your own intuition, into what feels like it really resonates with you. And be open to that this might be messy, that I might make mistakes as I create this podcast. In fact, as I was doing it, I was like, no, I want it to be like perfect, like in my mind, like I wanted to have this perfect launch and I wanted everything to look cute and all of the things. And I was like, wait, that's like the antithesis of shame. Shame and perfection are like two sides of the same coin. And so I was like, nope, I'm just going to be okay with messy. In fact, one of my favorite quotes, I have so many cool quotes on shame, but one of them is by Brandon Sanderson. And this is in a book called Bastille versus the Evil Librarian. I'm not always a good person, but I'm not just a coward either. Sometimes I'm heroic, sometimes I'm selfish. I'm all those things at once. I'm a human being like you. I often make mistakes, and sometimes I repeat them. Sometimes the curse you see as your biggest flaw can somehow also be your greatest advantage. So I think that this journey, the shame journey, is an embracing of the messiness, an embracing of all the sides of us. And that's what we're going to talk about. So 6 years ago, when I found life coaching, I discovered it because I was looking for a master's program in psychology. I planned on being a therapist of some kind. I kind of always planned on that. My degree was in psychology years ago. While I was having my kids, I was going to school, and then I set that aside for a long time, like a decade. And then when I came back to it, I always planned on becoming a therapist of some sort. Somebody invited me to an evening that a life coach was putting on relationships, and she talked about it in a completely different way than I'd heard. And it felt more proactive and more productive, more effective. I loved it. And I was like, what is this? What do you do? I did not know what a life coach even was at that time. And within a couple of months, I was enrolled at the life coach school. I loved what I learned there. It's based in cognitive behavioral science. It's all about think, feel, do. My thoughts create my feelings fuel my actions. It was very specific. It was very concrete. It worked pretty effectively for the people that I worked with. But over time, I began to notice that there was more kind of under the surface. And the more under the surface that I discovered now, at the time I didn't really know, was shame in our identity, in who I am. I feel like it's even above think, feel, do. The filter that I'm filtering the world through is my identity. And shame often sneaks in those identity pieces, in those I am pieces. And it filters through every thought. And so if I have an identity that is more steeped in shame, then it's going to affect my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. So I ended up taking a training, a facilitation called Dare to Lead. And it was through Brene Brown. It was a facilitator that had been trained by her, and I loved it. And I thought that's actually the avenue that I was going to go down to become a facilitator. But I got what I needed from that program, and I knew that there was something different for me out there. And I learned about shame from David Bedrick. He runs the Santa Fe shame-based clinic, shame-based studies. And I learned more about shame that way. I learned more about some kind of somatic practices and some nervous system regulation stuff. And I started just kind of doing my own thing, taking what I had learned and studied and grown and found what was really effective for me. And I felt like the in the body practices, the meditation, the subconscious stuff was what really helped me to move through my own shame. And so that's what I kind of went down. And so I veered away from my original coaching practice and modalities and tools and into something a little bit different that I really enjoy today. So that's kind of where my shame journey is at right now, because I recognize that it would come up in one area and I would kind of like get it under control, and then it would come up in another area and then I would get under control and then it would come up in another area. So I don't know if it's possible to have a completely shame-free life, but I'm going to try. I feel like it's this giant life experiment to figure out, like, is it actually possible? I know that for me, and also like so many of my clients, that over time we've noticed that like the shame is so much less frequent. Our triggers are much less frequent. They're much less intense. We're a lot more intentional about our actions. We're definitely less that way. And I wonder if it's possible to live a completely shame-free life. I don't know, but I want to try. And I also want to mention that I think that there is a gift in shame. I don't think that we want to have a life where we never have any difficulty, where we never have any opposition. Another one of my favorite quotes is by Pema Chodron. I might be saying that wrong, Pema Chodron. Compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's a relationship between equals. Only when we know our own darkness well can we be present with the darkness of others. So that's my goal. My goal is to be more present with others as well as I go through this journey. And so I think there's a gift in diving into our shame, in discovering it, into uncovering it. And I think we can take that gift with us and we can change and grow and heal ourselves and others. One of my other favorite mentors, Simone Seol, said this: "You will embody the wisdom that your wounds aren't defects to overcome, but portals to your deepest mastery and artistry. Exactly the parts of you that the world most needs." So whether you are a business owner or you are a parent or you are at work, whatever arena you're at, I think the world most needs what you will discover as you interact with this adversarial feeling, this adversarial thing inside that we call shame. And come along for the ride. Let's see what happens as we start to shame-free different areas of our life and see if it's possible to live a life that's entirely shame-free, or if it's possible to get the gift that there is in the moment when we're feeling that shame bubble up and move on fluidly, and then take the gift and then move on fluidly. So this will be an experiment and I'm excited to see where it goes. Thank you for being here, and I will talk more about shame in episode 2. If you are enjoying these episodes, I would love for you to follow, subscribe, like, share, do all those things so that it can get more out into the world, more out into the algorithm, and join me in this shame-free movement.